Life's been good to me, in a quiet sort of way. I'm 32, working in IT, the kind of job where I'm fixing systems, resetting passwords, and keeping everything humming along without anybody really noticing. It's not glamorous, but I like it. I'm the guy who makes sure the network doesn't crash during a big meeting, and that's enough for me. I don't need applause or a corner office. Stability suits me just fine. No drama, no chaos, just a steady rhythm I can count on. That's who I am, always have been. My days start early, usually with a coffee so strong it could wake a coma patient, and end with me on the couch, scrolling through tech forums or catching up on whatever series I'm hooked on. It's not a loud life, but it's mine, and I've built it carefully. My wife, she's different. 3 years ago, we got married, and I still can't believe someone like her picked someone like me. She's 30, works front desk at a high-end car dealership, the kind of place where millionaires walk in to buy something shiny just because they can. She's got this energy, magnetic, bright, like she's always one laugh away from lighting up a room. People gravitate to her, and she knows how to work it. At her job, she's not just selling cars, she's selling dreams, confidence, that feeling of being somebody. Customers leave with a new ride and a story about how she made them feel special. It's a gift, really, the way she can talk to anyone, make them smile, make them trust her. I've seen her convince a guy to upgrade to a fully loaded convertible just by flashing that grin and tossing in a clever line about horsepower. She's good, better than good. Outside of work, her world's even bigger. Social media is her playground. She's always posting stories with glittery filters, reels of her trying some new recipe or dancing in our living room, lives where she's chatting about her day while putting on mascara. It's constant. Her phone's practically glued to her hand, and every moment's a chance to share something. I don't get it, not really. I've got an account somewhere, barely used, mostly for following a few tech pages and the occasional meme. But for her, it's like breathing. She'll spend hours picking the right song for a 15-second clip or tweaking the lighting so her skin glows just right. Sometimes I'll walk by while she's filming, and she'll shoo me away, laughing, saying I'm ruining the vibe. I just shrug and keep moving. That's her thing, not mine. I don't need to be in the frame to feel good about us. Our marriage has been smooth, at least from where I'm standing. 3 years in, and we've dodged the big pitfalls, no screaming matches, no slammed doors, no whispers of someone else creeping in. We're not perfect, sure. I leave dishes in the sink too long sometimes, and she's got a habit of losing her keys at least once a week. But we figure it out. I find her keys. She nudges me to rinse the plates. It's a rhythm, like my job, steady and reliable. I don't ask for much, just her, me, and the life we're building. She's out there shining, and I'm here keeping things grounded. It works. At least, I thought it did. We live in a decent apartment, nothing fancy, but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, one for us, and one she's turned into a content corner, with ring lights and a mirror that takes up half the wall. The living room's my zone. Big TV, leather couch, a coffee table that's seen too many takeout containers. Our kitchen's small but functional, and she's always got some new gadget on the counter, like that air fryer she swore we needed. I didn't argue. I just learned how to make wings in it. That's how we roll. I let her lead, and I follow, not because I have to, but because I want to. Seeing her happy makes me happy. It's simple math. Lately, though, I've been busier at work. A new system rollout's got me pulling extra hours, staring at code until my eyes burn. She's been good about it. Doesn't complain when I'm late getting home. She'll text me a selfie from the dealership, her in a sharp blazer, captioning it boss mode, with a winking emoji. I'll send back a thumbs up or a looking good. That's us. Easy, no pressure. I don't worry about her out there in her world, charming everybody. She comes home to me, and that's what matters. I trust her. Always have. This weekend's coming up, and I'm looking forward to chilling. Maybe I'll convince her to skip her usual girls' night and stay in with me. Not that I mind her going out. She deserves it, blowing off steam with her friends, sipping wine, laughing too loud. But sometimes I miss her when she's gone, even if it's just for a night. I won't push though. That's not my style. I'll probably just order some food, crack open a beer, and wait for her to come back with stories about whatever chaos her crew got into. She'll tell me everything, like always, and I'll listen, like always. That's our deal. Her light, my steady. I don't need more than that. Or at least, I didn't think I did. It was a Saturday night, and the apartment felt quieter than usual. My wife had texted me earlier, saying she was headed to her friend's condo for a girls' night. Wine, snacks, maybe a cheesy movie. Her message popped up at 7:13 p.m., short and sweet. Love you. Don't wait up, followed by a kiss emoji and a wine glass. I smiled at my phone, sent back a quick, have fun, and settled into the couch. Nights like this were rare for me. No work emails, no urgent server issues, just a chance to unwind. I ordered ramen from that spot down the street, the one with the spicy broth that always hits just right, and flipped through streaming options. I landed on an action flick she'd probably roll her eyes at. Too many explosions, not enough drama for her taste. That was fine. I leaned back, let the movie roll, and let the night stretch out. Around 10:30, I grabbed my phone to check the time. The ramen bowl sat empty on the coffee table, and the movie was halfway done, but I wasn't really watching anymore. My thumb hovered over the usual apps, news, tech feeds, nothing exciting. Then I noticed something odd. She hadn't posted anything. Not a single story, no quick clip of her clinking glasses with her friends, no filtered selfie with some catchy song playing. That wasn't like her. Her social media was a constant stream. Every outing, every mood, every moment got its own little spotlight. A girl's night was prime content for her, the kind of thing she'd document with a boomerang of wine swirling or a group shot captioned squad goals. I frowned, wondering if I'd missed something. Maybe she was just too busy laughing to bother. I set my phone down, tried to focus on the movie again, but the thought lingered. It wasn't worry, not exactly, just a loose thread in my head that wouldn't let go. I'm not the type to check up on her. Never have been. She's out living her life, and I trust her to do that. But the quiet from her end fell off, like a song missing its beat. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through her usual spots online. Nothing new since this morning, when she'd posted a mirror selfie in her workout gear, all smiles and hashtags about staying motivated. I tapped my fingers on the armrest, debating whether to text her. I didn't want to seem clingy, but a quick "everything good" wouldn't hurt, right? Before I could type anything, a memory hit me. A while back, I made a burner account for testing multi-device streaming at work. It was a random thing, some project where I needed to see how accounts synced across platforms without using my main one. I hadn't touched it in months, maybe a year. On a whim, I opened the app, logged out of my usual profile, and typed in the old credentials. It took a second, but I was in. The account was bare, no posts, no followers, just a ghost profile with a default avatar. I searched for her page, half expecting to see nothing new. But there she was, live, right now. The title caught my eye, Girls Only, with a wine emoji and a music note. My stomach did a weird flip, not because I thought anything was wrong, but because I hadn't expected to find her like this. I tapped the stream, and her face filled the screen. She was in her element, glass in hand, hair loose, that laugh of hers cutting through the background chatter. Her friends were there too, one leaning in close, another tossing her head back, all of them caught up in the moment. The setting looked like a cozy living room, probably her friend's condo, with fairy lights strung up and a cheese board on the table. Comments were pouring in, little hearts and emojis popping up like fireworks. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, watching her work the camera like it was second nature. She was saying something about the wine, holding the glass up to the light, joking about how it was fancy but cheap. Her friends cracked up, and I couldn't help but smile. This was her loud, alive, the center of it all. Then the vibe shifted. A comment flashed across the screen, someone asking if she really loved her husband. I froze, my thumb hovering over the phone. It wasn't a serious question, probably just some random follower fishing for a reaction. But her friend, the one with the loud laugh, nudged her, grinning like it was a game. "Yeah," she said, "do you?" The words hung there, and I felt my chest tighten, not because I doubted her, but because I didn't know why it mattered. She took a sip of her wine, slow and deliberate, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. Then she laughed, sharp and quick, and said, "He's convenient. Not forever." Her friends lost it, howling like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard, their voices overlapping in a blur of cackles and clinking glasses. The comments exploded, laughing emojis, savage, queen energy. She just smirked, took another sip, and changed the subject like it was nothing. I sat there, the phone heavy in my hand. The movie was still playing, some car chase blaring in the background, but I didn't hear it. Convenient. Not forever. The words looped in my head, each one landing like a brick. I didn't type anything in the chat. I didn't screenshot it or save the stream. I just watched her laugh, watched her friends egg her on, watched the comments keep rolling like none of it meant a thing. My mouth was dry, and my heart was doing this weird, slow thud, like it was trying to catch up. I closed the app, set the phone face down on the couch, and stared at the TV screen without seeing it. The ramen bowl was still on the table, the broth cold now, congealing at the edges. I didn't move. I didn't know what to do. The next morning came too fast, sunlight sneaking through the blinds and hitting me square in the face. I hadn't slept much, maybe a couple of hours, my mind stuck on that live stream, those words looping like a bad song I couldn't shake. Convenient. Not forever. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Angry? Sad? Betrayed? I didn't know. It was like my heart was a computer stuck on a loading screen, spinning but not landing anywhere. The apartment was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. I rolled out of bed, my body heavy, and shuffled to the bathroom to splash water on my face. The mirror showed the same guy as always, tired eyes, stubble I'd deal with later, but something felt off, like I was looking at a stranger. I heard the front door open around 10, the familiar jingle of keys and the soft thud of her overnight bag hitting the floor. She was back, all energy and motion, kicking off her heels and calling out a cheerful morning, like nothing had changed. I was in the kitchen, cracking eggs into a bowl, the whisk moving on autopilot. She breezed in, her perfume trailing her, and dropped a quick kiss on my cheek before grabbing a mug from the cabinet. She was in sweatpants and a loose tee, her hair piled up in a messy bun, looking like she'd just rolled out of a magazine at 4, effortless chic. She started talking about the girls' night, how they'd stayed up too late, how the wine was better than expected, how one of her friends spilled cheese on the couch and freaked out. Her voice was light, bubbly, filling the room like it always did. I nodded, kept whisking, let her words wash over me without really sinking in. I could have confronted her right then. Could have set the bowl down, looked her in the eye, and asked what she meant by convenient. Could have told her I'd seen the live stream, heard her laugh, watched her friends cheer like it was a comedy show. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear her answer. Maybe I didn't want to see her face change, that spark in her eyes dimming or turning sharp. Instead, I just said, "Good time." My voice came out flat, but she didn't seem to notice. She was pouring coffee now, leaning against the counter, her phone already in her hand as she scrolled through notifications. "Chill," she said, smiling. "Much needed." I nodded again, turned to the stove, and poured the eggs into the pan. They hissed on contact, the sound louder than it should have been. "Cool," I said, and that was it. Conversation over. She didn't know I knew. That was the strangest part. She moved through the kitchen like everything was fine, humming some tune I didn't recognize, sipping her coffee while replying to messages. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, flipping the eggs, wondering how she could be so normal. Did she even remember what she'd said? Was it just a throwaway line, something to get a laugh? Did it mean more? I wanted to ask, but my mouth wouldn't move. It was like a wall had gone up inside me, not anger exactly, but something colder, quieter. I didn't feel like yelling or fighting. I didn't feel like begging for an explanation. I just felt distant, like I was standing in the room but not really there. We ate at the table, her scrolling, me staring at my plate more than eating. The eggs were fine, nothing special, but every bite felt like work. She was telling me about her friend's new job, something about a promotion, but I only caught half of it. My mind was somewhere else, replaying that moment from the stream, her smirk, the wine glass, the way her voice had sounded so sure. Convenient. Not forever. I wondered what she saw when she looked at me. A guy who paid half the rent? Someone who didn't make waves? A placeholder until something better came along? I didn't want to believe that, but the words were stuck in my head, sharp and heavy, cutting deeper the more I turned them over. I cleared the plates when we were done, rinsed them under the faucet while she went to the living room to catch up on stories. Her phone was a constant now, the screen lighting up her face as she tapped and swiped. I stood at the sink, water running over my hands, and realized I didn't know what to do next. Confronting her felt like a trap. Either she'd laugh it off, say I was overreacting, or she'd admit something I wasn't ready to hear. Ignoring it wasn't much better. It was like pretending a crack in the wall wasn't spreading. I dried my hands, folded the towel, and leaned against the counter, staring at nothing. The apartment felt smaller somehow, the air thicker, like something was pressing down on me. She didn't notice. That was the kicker. She was on the couch now, legs tucked under her, narrating her morning to her followers with that same easy charm. I walked past, grabbed my laptop from the coffee table, and mumbled something about checking work emails. She barely looked up, just gave a quick, "Okay, babe," before going back to her phone. I sat in the armchair across from her, opened my laptop, but didn't type a thing. I just watched her for a second, the way her fingers danced across the screen, the way her smile never faltered. She was so good at this, at looking happy, at making everyone believe the story she was selling. And I believed it too, hadn't I? 3 years of marriage, and I thought we were solid. But now I wasn't sure. I closed the laptop, set it aside, and leaned back. The live stream was still in my head, but something else was there too, a shift, like a gear clicking into place. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I felt it. Something inside me wasn't in the room anymore. It wasn't anger or hurt, not exactly. It was quieter than that, heavier. I looked at her again, still lost in her phone, and realized I didn't want to ask her anything. Not now. Maybe not ever. I just wanted to sit with this feeling, figure out what it was before it figured me out. The day stretched ahead, and I didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the same guy I'd been yesterday, and I wasn't sure I ever would be again. The week after that Saturday night felt like moving through fog. Everything looked familiar, but nothing felt clear. I went to work, answered emails, fixed bugs in the system, came home, ate dinner, and nodded through conversations like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong, deep in my bones. Those words from the live stream, "convenient, not forever," had carved a space in my head, and no amount of routine could fill it. I didn't bring it up with her. Didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't even hint that I'd heard what she said. Confronting her felt pointless, like shouting into a void. Would she laugh it off? Apologize? Tell me I'd misunderstood? I didn't want any of it. Instead, I started paying attention, really paying attention, to everything, her words, her glances, the way she moved through our life like it was a stage set just for her. Monday morning, she was in the bathroom, filming herself doing her makeup, narrating some skincare routine to her followers. Her voice bounced off the tiles, bright and practiced, while I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, pretending to read tech news on my phone. But I wasn't reading. I was listening not to her words, but to the rhythm of her, the way she leaned into the mirror, angled her phone just so, made every moment a performance. I didn't used to notice it like this, but now I couldn't unsee it. Every smile, every laugh, felt like it was for someone else, not me. I sipped my coffee, scrolled without seeing, and let the realization settle. I didn't trust her anymore. Not the way I used to. And that changed everything. By Tuesday, I was done pretending. Not out loud. I still smiled when she made a joke, still said, "Love you," when she left for work, but inside, I was pulling back. I started making moves, small ones at first, to untangle myself. I called the travel agency during my lunch break, canceling the anniversary trip we'd planned for next month. It was supposed to be a weekend in a cabin upstate, just us, no phones, no noise. I'd been looking forward to it, thought it might remind us of the early days when we'd talk for hours about nothing and everything. But now, the idea of sitting across from her, pretending I hadn't heard what I'd heard, made my stomach turn. The agent asked if I wanted to reschedule. I said no, just refund it. She asked why. I didn't answer, just thanked her and hung up. The money would hit my account in a few days, and I'd already decided it wasn't going back into our joint savings. That same afternoon, I called the bank. My voice was steady as I explained I wanted my name off the joint account. The teller asked a bunch of questions. Did I want to open a new account? Was everything okay? Was this a joint decision? I kept it short, said I just needed it done. She walked me through the steps, and by the end of the call, my paycheck was rerouted to a new account, one she didn't know about. It felt strange, like I was betraying her somehow, but then I'd hear those words again, "convenient, not forever," and the guilt would fade. I wasn't stealing anything. I was just taking back what was mine. My money, my plans, my pee. She didn't notice a thing. That night, she texted me a heart emoji from work, and I sent one back, my thumb hesitating over the screen before hitting send. Wednesday came, and she planned a couple spa day for the weekend. She pitched it over dinner, all excited, saying it'd be cute content for her followers, us in robes, sipping cucumber water, maybe a goofy selfie in the sauna. She was already planning the hashtags, her eyes lighting up as she talked about how it'd pop online. I nodded, took a bite of my chicken, and said it sounded nice. But I was already somewhere else. While she talked filters and lighting, I was on my laptop after dinner, emailing our landlord. I asked about breaking the lease early, said I was looking for a one-bedroom, Something simple, something mine. He replied within an hour, said he had a unit opening up soon, could get me in with minimal hassle. I told him to send the paperwork. No questions, no explanations. Just action. She noticed something was off by Wednesday night. I was washing dishes, and she came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist like she used to when we were first married. Her chin rested on my shoulder, and for a second, I almost softened, almost let myself believe we could go back to how things were. But then I remembered her laugh on that live stream, the way her friends had cheered, and my spine stiffened. She felt it, pulled back, and asked, "You okay?" Her voice was soft, curious, not accusing. I kept scrubbing the pan, water splashing against the sink, and said, "Yeah, just tired." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. She stood there for a moment, like she was waiting for more, but I didn't give her anything. Finally, she said, "Okay," and walked away, her phone lighting up with notifications as she sank into the couch. I dried my hands and stood in the kitchen, staring at the counter where her ring light sometimes sat, its tripod legs folded like a spider waiting to pounce. She was texting now, probably her friends, maybe planning the next post, the next performance. I didn't check. Didn't want to. Instead, I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and opened my laptop again. I pulled up the landlord's email, reread the lease details, and started mapping out what came next. Not a fight, not a big scene, just a plan. My replies to her texts got shorter that week. Yeah, cool. Busy. She didn't push, didn't ask again if I was okay. Maybe she didn't want to know. Maybe she already knew something was shifting, even if she couldn't name it. By Thursday, I was a ghost in my own life. I moved through our routines, coffee in the morning, work during the day, dinner at night, but I wasn't really there. I was watching, waiting, building something new in my head. She kept being her bright, loud, always on, but I was different. I didn't laugh as easily, didn't lean into her stories like I used to. She'd dance around the living room, filming herself to some old song, and I'd sit there, my phone in my hand, not even pretending to watch. I was done playing along. Not because I hated her, I didn't. Not because I wanted to hurt her, I didn't want that either. I just didn't want to be convenient anymore. And I sure as hell didn't want to be temporary. Thursday came, and I knew it was time. I'd been carrying the weight of that live stream for days, those words, convenient, not forever, etched into me like a scar I couldn't stop touching. I didn't want to fight, didn't want tears or explanations. I just wanted out, clean and quiet, before I lost the nerve or started second-guessing myself. She was working late at the dealership, some event with champagne and clients test-driving cars they'd never buy. She texted me around noon, saying she'd be home past 9, maybe 10. Perfect. That gave me enough time. I left work early, told my boss I had a personal thing, and drove home with the radio off, the silence loud enough to keep my thoughts sharp. I'd been planning this since Tuesday, maybe even Monday, but today was when it all came together. Every step, every detail, like code finally running without errors. I got to the apartment around 2 and stood in the doorway for a minute, taking it in. The living room was the same as always, couch a little worn, coffee table cluttered with her empty coffee mugs and a candle she never lit. Her ring light was propped in the corner, its tripod leaning against the wall like it was waiting for her next performance. The kitchen smelled faintly of last night's takeout, and the bedroom door was half open, her side of the bed still unmade, sheets twisted from her tossing and turning. It was ours, this place, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Maybe it never had. I set my keys on the counter, careful not to make noise even though no one was there, and started moving. First, I called the movers. I'd found a small company online, no questions asked, cash up front. They were available, could be there by 3. I told them it wasn't much, just my essentials, nothing heavy, and gave them the address. Then I went to the bedroom and pulled out the cardboard boxes I'd stashed under the bed a couple of days ago, flat-packed so she wouldn't notice. I started with my clothes, folding shirts and jeans, stacking them neatly like I was packing for a trip I'd come back from. Socks, shoes, a couple of jackets, only what I needed. I didn't touch her stuff, didn't even look at her side of the closet. Her dresses hung there, bright and untouched, like they belonged to someone I used to know. I filled 2 boxes, taped them shut, and moved to the office nook in the living room. My computer was next. I unplugged the monitor, coiled the cables, and wrapped the keyboard in a towel to keep it from rattling. The tower was heavier than I remembered, but I got it into a box with my external drives and a few notebooks I'd scribbled code in. My books came after that, Mostly tech manuals and a couple of sci-fi novels I'd read too many times. I didn't linger, didn't flip through them, or let myself get nostalgic. I just packed, one thing at a time, my hands steady even though my chest felt tight. The movers arrived right on time. Two guys in faded t-shirts who didn't talk much. They glanced around, nodded when I pointed to the boxes, and started carrying them to the truck. I helped with the smaller stuff, keeping my eyes on the task, not the empty spaces I was leaving behind. By 4, my things were gone. The apartment looked wrong now. Half-empty shelves, gaps where my monitor used to sit, a closet that felt too big for what was left. I walked through one last time, checking for anything I'd missed, but I'd been thorough. I didn't want to come back. In the kitchen, I stopped at the counter and pulled off my wedding ring. It felt heavier than it should have, a plain gold band that hadn't left my finger in 3 years. I set it in a small glass we used for juice, the one with a chip on the rim. It clinked against the bottom, and I stared at it for a second, waiting for something, regret, maybe, or relief. Nothing came, just quiet. I grabbed her iPad from the coffee table, the one she used for editing her videos. It was unlocked, her app still open from whenever she'd last touched it. I opened her social media, found the live stream from Saturday, and scrubbed through until I hit the moment. There it was, her face, her smirk, her voice saying, "He's convenient. Not forever." I paused it right there, the frame frozen on her laugh, her friends blurred in the background. I set the iPad on the counter next to the glass, screen still on, the truth staring up at anyone who'd look. I didn't need to write a note or spell it out. That was enough. She'd see it, and she'd know why. I took one last look around. The apartment wasn't mine anymore, not in any way that mattered. I grabbed my backpack, laptop, wallet, keys to the new place, and walked to the door. My hand hovered over the lock, but I didn't turn it. Let her walk into whatever this was. No barriers, no pretense. I stepped into the hallway, pulled the door shut, and felt the click in my chest more than I heard it. The elevator ride down was quick, the lobby empty except for the hum of a vacuum somewhere. I stepped outside, the air cool against my face, the sun low but still bright. My car was parked across the street, and I slid into the driver's seat, tossing my backpack onto the passenger side. I didn't call anyone, didn't text, didn't check my phone. I just drove. The new place wasn't far, a one-bedroom in a quieter part of town, nothing fancy, but enough for me. The movers would meet me there, unload my boxes, and I'd start over. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I didn't feel free, not exactly, but I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy for too long and finally set it down. The road stretched out, and I kept my eyes on it. No music, no distractions. I didn't know what came next, not really, but I knew one thing. I wasn't convenient anymore. I wasn't temporary. I was just me, and for the first time in days, that felt like enough. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky orange, and I drove into it, leaving everything else behind. I was in my new apartment, sitting on a folding chair that came with the place, when the first call came. It was 8:46 p.m., and my phone buzzed against the cardboard box I was using as a temporary table. Her name lit up the screen, and for a second, I just stared at it, my thumb hovering like I might actually answer. I didn't. The buzzing stopped, and the screen went dark, but I knew it wasn't over. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me, and took a sip of the beer I'd grabbed from the corner store on my way here. The apartment was bare, boxes stacked against one wall, a mattress on the floor, my laptop open on another box with a half-finished Wi-Fi setup. It wasn't home yet, but it was mine, and that was enough for now. I turned up the music playing through my phone, some old jazz track I'd never listened to with her, and tried to focus on the router blinking across the room. The phone buzzed again, then again, each call coming faster than the last. I didn't pick up, didn't even touch the screen. By 9, it was relentless, call after call, the vibrations rattling the box until I finally flipped the phone face down to muffle it. Texts started pouring in, one after another, lighting up even through the silence I'd set. I didn't read them at first, just let them stack up, their little preview bubbles piling like unpaid bills. But curiosity got me, and I glanced at the screen. "Where are you?" was the first one, all caps, 2 question marks like she was shouting into the void. Then, "This has to be a joke." Another, "Are you seriously doing this over something that dumb?" My jaw tightened, and I set the phone back down, harder than I meant to. Something that dumb. That's what she called it. Her words, her laugh, her truth laid bare for everyone to see. I stood up, walked to the kitchenette, and grabbed a carton of Thai takeout from the fridge. The movers had left an hour ago. My box is now a maze I'd deal with later. I'd ordered food on instinct, something spicy to keep me grounded, and now I ate straight from the container, leaning against the counter. The noodles were good, the heat just right, but every bite came with a flash of her texts, her voice in my head, the way she'd probably looked when she walked into the apartment and saw what I'd left behind. The ring in the glass, the iPad paused on her own words, convenient, not forever. I wondered what her face had done when she saw it. Shock? Guilt? Anger? I didn't know, and I didn't want to care, but the question stuck anyway, like a splinter I couldn't pull out. By midnight, my phone was a war zone. 43 missed calls, 21 texts, each one sharper than the last. "You're being childish," one said, and I almost laughed. Childish? For walking away from a marriage she'd already half dismissed on a live stream for strangers to cheer. Another, "You can't just leave like this." But I had, and it wasn't as hard as I'd thought it would be. The hardest part was sitting here now, eating cold noodles in a half-empty apartment, knowing she was out there, probably pacing our old living room, expecting me to crack and come back. I didn't hate her, not even close, but I didn't owe her anything either. Not anymore. I set the takeout down, wiped my hands on a paper towel, and checked the Wi-Fi again. Connected. Good. At least something was working. The music looped back to the same jazz track, all sax and slow drums, and I let it fill the room, drowning out the buzz of another text. I sat on the mattress, my back against the wall, and scrolled through the messages without opening them fully. Most were demands: come back, talk to me, explain yourself. Some were softer, like she was trying a different angle. I don't understand what's happening. I snorted at that one. She understood enough to know why I was gone. She just didn't want to face it. I kept scrolling, my finger moving faster as the words blurred together, until one stopped me cold. It came at 1:12 a.m., the last one she'd sent. "Come home. Please. Just talk to me." No caps, no exclamation points, just a quiet plea that hit harder than the rest. I stared at it, the screen glowing in the dim room, my thumb frozen over the reply button. For a second, just a second, I pictured it. Driving back, walking through that door, seeing her on the couch with her eyes red, her phone finally off. She'd talk, I'd listen, and maybe she'd say it was a mistake, a drunk slip, something she didn't mean. Maybe I'd believe her. Maybe we'd try to fix it. But then what? Go back to smiling through her posts, her filters, her half-truths? Pretend I didn't know what I knew? I set the phone down, face up this time, and leaned my head against the wall. The jazz kept playing, soft and steady, and I closed my eyes, letting the moment pass. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The apartment smelled like cardboard and curry, a mix that should have been weird but felt right somehow. I got up, walked to the window, and cracked it open. Cool air slipped in, carrying the faint hum of the city, cars, a distant siren, life moving on. I stood there, hands in my pockets, and thought about the glass I'd left on the counter, the ring inside it, the iPad still paused on her face. She'd have seen it by now, no question. She'd have played the video, heard her own voice, maybe even felt a pang of something real. Or maybe she was already spinning it in her head, turning it into someone else's fault. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. I'd done what I needed to do, and now I was here, in a place that didn't echo with her laughter or her lies. I went back to the mattress, killed the music, and checked the time. Almost 2. My phone was quiet now, no new texts, no calls. Maybe she'd given up for the night. Or maybe she was typing something else, something I wouldn't read. I didn't care. I lay down, the mattress stiff but good enough, and stared at the ceiling, its cracks barely visible in the dark. Tomorrow would come, and I'd unpack a box, maybe 2. I'd eat more takeout, set up my desk, make this place my own. For now, though, I just breathed, letting the silence settle. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was close, closer than I'd been in days. And that was enough. 2 days after I moved out, the world started to catch up. I was still settling into the new apartment, boxes half unpacked, my computer set up on a wobbly desk I'd found at a thrift store. The place was coming together, slowly, but it was mine. I'd spent Saturday hooking up speakers, organizing cables, and eating leftover pizza straight from the box. No schedule, no rush, just me figuring out how to live in a space that didn't carry her shadow. I kept my phone on silent, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't want to hear it buzz every time someone liked one of her posts or sent me a "you good" text. I wasn't ready for questions, not yet. But the internet doesn't wait for you to be ready, and by Sunday morning, it was clear things were spiraling in ways I hadn't expected. I was making coffee, the cheap drip machine gurgling like it was on its last legs, when I decided to check my phone. Not her texts. Those were still unread, a wall of notifications I'd deal with later, but the apps, the ones she lived on. I wasn't sure why. Maybe part of me wanted to see if she'd say anything about me leaving, or maybe I just needed to know how she was spinning it. I opened her profile, and there it was, a new post from late last night. A black and white selfie, her in a messy bun and an oversized hoodie, looking like she'd just rolled out of bed, but still somehow perfect. The caption hit me like a jab. Some people just can't handle a strong woman. No mention of me, no details, just that vague, punchy line meant to rally her followers. And rally they did. The likes were climbing, hundreds already, with comments piling up like kindling. You're glowing, sis. Their loss. Keep shining, queen. I scrolled through, my coffee forgotten, each heart an emoji tightening something in my chest. I set the phone down and leaned against the counter, the machine still dripping behind me. Strong woman. That's how she framed it. Like I'd walked out because she was too much, not because she'd called me a placeholder to a room full of strangers. It stung, not because I cared what her followers thought, but because it was so easy for her to twist the truth, to make it a story that fit her brand. I wasn't surprised, not really. She'd always been good at this, curating moments, shaping them into something shiny for the world to eat up. I just hadn't thought I'd be the one she'd reshape. I poured my coffee, the mug warm in my hands, and stared out the window at the street below. A delivery truck rumbled by, and I wondered how many of those commenters would cheer if they knew the whole story. Then I saw it, buried in the comments, almost lost in the noise. Someone had written, "Is this about the live?" Another, lower down, "Not forever, huh?" My pulse kicked up, and I scrolled back to find them, but they were already gone, deleted, probably by her. I opened another app, one where stories spread faster, and sure enough, there it was. Someone had clipped her live stream, just that one moment, her smirking, wine glass in hand, saying, "He's convenient. Not forever," with her friends' laughter roaring in the background. No caption, no context, just her words looping for anyone to see. They'd tagged her, and it was spreading, reposted by accounts I didn't recognize, each share adding fuel to a fire she couldn't control. I watched it twice, my thumb frozen over the screen, her voice sharp and careless in a way I hadn't noticed that first night. I didn't smile, didn't feel vindicated. If anything, it made me tired. This wasn't what I wanted, not revenge, not her dragged online. I'd left to get away, not to start a war. But the internet doesn't care what you want. I closed the app, set the phone face down, and took a sip of coffee. It was bitter, too strong, but I drank it anyway, letting the heat ground me. She'd seen the clip by now, no question. That's why the deleted comments, the vague post, the sudden shift to victim mode. I could picture her in our old apartment, pacing, refreshing her notifications, trying to outrun her own words. Part of me wondered what she was feeling, panic, maybe, or anger, but I pushed it down. Her feelings weren't my job anymore. By afternoon, she'd posted again, a story this time. Just text on a plain background. Context matters. Don't believe everything you see. Then another, a selfie with a soft filter, her eyes wide and earnest, captioned, "I'm human. I mess up. I'm learning." No apology, not really. Just enough to make her followers nod and say, "We've all been." I watched it once, let it expire, and didn't check again. She was doing what she always did, managing the narrative, smoothing the edges, making it about her growth instead of her choices. I didn't care who believed her. I knew the truth, and that was enough. I turned off my phone, grabbed a box from the corner, and started unpacking books, stacking them on a shelf I'd built the day before. The rhythm of it, lift, place, adjust, kept my hands busy, my mind quiet. I didn't tell anyone what was happening, not my coworkers, not my cousin, not even the barista who'd started recognizing me at the coffee shop down the street. There was nothing to say. The internet was loud, but my life didn't have to be. I ate dinner alone that night, some stir-fry I'd thrown together from whatever was in the fridge, and sat on the floor, my back against the wall. The apartment was still bare, but it was starting to feel like mine, a place where I could breathe without waiting for the next performance. I thought about her post again, the comments, the clips circling like a vulture. She'd keep posting, keep spinning, and maybe she'd come out fine. That was her world, not mine. I finished my food, rinsed the plate, and looked around at the boxes still waiting. Tomorrow, I'd unpack another. Maybe set up the TV. Small steps, but they were mine, and they didn't need a caption or a filter to mean something. It was Sunday, a week since I'd left, and I was starting to find a rhythm in the new apartment. The boxes were mostly unpacked, my clothes in the closet, my computer humming on a proper desk, a cheap lamp casting soft light across the living room. I'd even hung a calendar on the wall, one I'd grabbed from the dollar store, just to give the place some structure. I was on the couch, half watching a basketball game, the volume low so I could hear my own thoughts. A pizza box sat open on the coffee table, one slice left, the crust gone cold. I was tired, not the kind that comes from work, but the kind that settles in when you've been carrying something heavy for too long and finally set it down. I leaned back, eyes drifting from the screen to the window, where the city lights flickered like they were trying to tell me something. Then it came, a knock at the door, sharp and sudden. I froze, my hand halfway to my beer. It wasn't loud, just firm, like someone who knew I was here. I waited, hoping it was a mistake, a neighbor with the wrong apartment. But it came again, harder this time, followed by banging that rattled the frame. Then her voice, raw and unmistakable, cut through the wood. "Malik, please, I just want to talk." My stomach dropped, not out of fear, but out of certainty. I'd known this might happen, had even pictured it in the back of my mind. But hearing her now, here, at my door, made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. I didn't move. The game played on, a referee's whistle faint in the background, while her fists kept pounding, each hit heavier than the last. She shouted again, her words spilling out fast, desperate. "You misunderstood. I was drunk. It wasn't serious." Her voice cracked on serious, and I could hear the strain, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. I stayed where I was, my hands resting on my knees, my eyes fixed on the pizza box like it could anchor me. The banging stopped for a moment, replaced by a softer sound, her palms slapping the door now, less angry, more pleading. "Malik, please," she said, quieter. "Just open the door. Let me explain." I didn't budge. Explain what? That she didn't mean to say I was temporary? That her laugh, her fringed cheers, the way she leaned into those words, convenient, not forever, was all just a slip? I'd heard enough explanations in her texts, her posts, her vague apologies online. I didn't need another one. The shouting turned to sobbing, low at first, then louder, like she couldn't hold it in. It wasn't fake. I knew her well enough to tell, but it didn't change anything. I sat there, my jaw tight, my fingers digging into my thighs, and let it happen. The sound was heavy, pulling at something in me, some old instinct to fix things, to make her okay. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Fixing her meant breaking myself, and I was done with that. The sobs grew ragged, then quiet, and after a few minutes, there was nothing, just silence, thick and final. I waited, counting the seconds in my head, half expecting another knock, another plea. It didn't come. 10 minutes passed, maybe more, and I knew she was gone. The air felt different, lighter, like the room could breathe again. I got up, walked to the door, and stood there, my hand on the knob. I didn't open it, just stood, listening to the quiet, making sure it was real. The hallway was empty. I could feel it without looking. I went back to the couch, sank into it, and stared at the TV. The game was in the fourth quarter now, but I didn't care who was winning. My beer was warm, but I drank it anyway, the bitter taste grounding me. I thought about her out there, walking back to her car, maybe crying, maybe angry, maybe both. I wondered how she'd found me, probably a mutual friend, someone who'd let slip where I'd moved. It didn't matter. She'd come, she'd said her piece, and I'd let her leave. That was it. An hour later, I grabbed my phone, not sure what I was looking for. No new texts, no calls. Just the same unread messages from her, the ones I'd ignored since Thursday. I opened them, not to read, but to do something I hadn't done yet. I typed one line. "You called me convenient. I believed you." My thumb hovered over send, my chest tight like I was stepping off a ledge. I hit it, watched the message go through, and locked the screen before I could think too hard. It wasn't much, but it was enough. My truth, plain and clear, no room for her to twist it. I set the phone face down and leaned back, the game still flickering across the screen. She replied almost instantly, a flood of texts lighting up the phone, one after another. I didn't look. I could have. Part of me wanted to know what she'd say, how she'd try to pull me back, but I didn't need to. I'd said what I had to, and anything else was just noise. I turned the TV off. The sudden silence sharpened the room. The pizza box was still open, the last slice untouched, and I closed it, slid it into the fridge for tomorrow. The apartment felt bigger now, not because it was empty, but because it was mine. Every corner, every choice, every second of quiet. I walked to the window, cracked it open, and let the night air slip in, cool and clean. I didn't know what she'd do next, post another story, call again, show up somewhere else. It didn't matter. I'd drawn a line, and I wasn't crossing it. I went to the bedroom, just a mattress and a lamp for now, and sat on the edge, my hands resting on my knees. The city hummed outside, a low, steady pulse that didn't ask anything of me. I thought about the door, her voice, the way she'd sounded so sure I'd open it. But I hadn't, and I wouldn't. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. I lay back, the mattress creaking under me, and closed my eyes. Sleep didn't come easy, but it would, eventually. For now, I just listened to the quiet, letting it settle over me like a blanket I'd earned. 10 days had passed since I'd sent that text, the one line that said everything I needed to. You called me convenient. I believed you. For a while after that, my phone was a battlefield, her messages coming in waves, long paragraphs, short pleas, even a few voice memos I didn't play. I'd see them stack up, the notification counter climbing like a score I didn't want to win, but I never replied. I'd made my point, drawn my line, and there was nothing left to say. By the 10th day, the texts stopped, just like I'd figured they would. The silence wasn't loud or heavy, it was just there, like the hum of my fridge or the creak of my new apartment's floorboards. It was part of the background now, and I was okay with that. I was starting to learn how to live in this new quiet, piece by piece, day by day. The apartment was more mine now. I'd unpacked the last of the boxes, set up a second-hand bookshelf, and even bought a rug to make the living room feel less empty. It wasn't fancy, just a plain gray thing from a discount store, but it softened the space, made it feel like I wasn't just squatting in someone else's life. I'd started cooking again, nothing complicated, just stir-fries or eggs with whatever I had in the fridge. I'd sit at the small table I'd found at a flea market, eating slow, no phone, no TV, just me and the sound of my own chewing. It was strange how much I liked it, how the absence of her voice, her laughter, her constant tapping on a screen left room for something else, something I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Myself, maybe. I didn't check her social media much anymore, but I wasn't blind to it either. Word got around, even if I didn't ask for it. A coworker mentioned seeing a post about healing and growth, and I knew it was hers without looking. Curiosity got the better of me one night, and I opened her profile on my laptop, keeping it quick, like I was just passing through. She'd gone quiet for a bit after that live stream clip spread, her usual flood of selfies and stories slowing to a trickle. Then she came back with a post, just words on a soft pink background, taking time to heal and grow. No picture, no hashtags, just that. The comments were supportive, mostly her regulars with their hearts and "you got this" messages, but there were cracks too. A few people unfollowed, their names missing from the usual crowd. Even one of her close friends, the quieter one, had left a comment that wasn't all cheers. Sometimes you gotta own your words. It was gone by morning, deleted like it never happened, but I'd seen it. I closed the tab and didn't check again. I didn't talk about it with anyone. Not my coworkers, who probably knew something was up but didn't push. Not my cousin, who'd always had a side-eye for her but wouldn't pry unless I invited it. Not even the guy at the corner store, where I'd started buying my coffee beans because it was closer than the chain. I didn't need to explain myself. What happened was mine to carry, not to unpack for someone else's pity or advice. I'd left because I had to, because staying would have meant pretending I didn't hear what I heard, didn't know what I knew. Convenient. Not forever. Those words weren't just a moment, they were a truth she'd let slip, and I wasn't going to unhear them. I didn't need to justify that to anyone, not even myself. Work was my anchor. I'd throw myself into code, lose hours debugging scripts or tweaking systems until the screen blurred and my eyes burned. It wasn't about distraction, it was about control. At work, I could fix things, make them run right, see the results of my hands moving across a keyboard. It wasn't like marriage, where you could do everything right and still end up staring at a stranger. My boss noticed I was staying late, asked if I was okay. I said yeah, just focused, and he left it at that. I liked that about him. No digging, no drama. I'd go home after, eat my dinner, Maybe watch a game or read a chapter of some old sci-fi novel. Routine, but not the kind that traps you. The kind that builds something. I started running again, too. Nothing crazy, just a loop around the neighborhood, early enough that the streets were still waking up. I'd lace up my sneakers, plug in my earbuds, and let the music push me forward. The air was cool, the sidewalks uneven, but every step felt like mine. I didn't think about her when I ran, didn't think about much at all. Just the burn in my legs, the rhythm of my breath, the way the city looked before it got loud. It was like the apartment, the cooking, the work. A piece of me I was taking back, when I didn't realize I'd let slip away. I'd come home sweaty, shower, and start my day, and it felt good, like I was writing my own story now, no filter needed. I didn't hate her. That was the thing that surprised me most. I thought I'd feel something sharper, anger, maybe, or bitterness, but it wasn't there. I felt done. Not cold, not empty, just finished. Like I'd read a book to the end and didn't need to flip back through the pages. I'd loved her once, loved her enough to build a life with her, but that was gone now, and I didn't want it back. I wanted this instead, the quiet mornings, the runs, the apartment that smelled like coffee and cardboard instead of her perfume. I wanted to wake up without wondering what she was posting, what she was saying, what she was hiding. I wanted to be enough for myself, and I was starting to believe I could be. By the 10th day, I knew I'd made the right call. The silence from her phone, her accounts, her world, it wasn't just an absence. It was space, room to breathe, to build, to be. I sat on my couch that night, a beer in hand, the lamp casting shadows across the rug. The TV was off, the apartment still, and I let myself feel it, the weight of nothing, the freedom of it. I didn't need her to hurt, didn't need her to apologize or explain. I didn't need her to see me. I saw myself, and that was enough. Peace doesn't need a defense, and I was finding mine, one quiet day at a time. 3 weeks had passed since I walked out, and the new apartment didn't feel new anymore. It was home now, rough edges and all. The fridge was stocked with actual food, chicken, vegetables, a carton of eggs I'd learned to scramble just right, not the half-empty takeout containers or staged smoothie bowls we used to keep for her photos. The living room had a couch I'd picked out myself, a dark blue one that wasn't stylish but felt good to sink into. I'd hung a couple of posters on the walls, nothing fancy, just prints of old sci-fi covers I'd found online. The place smelled like coffee most mornings, like spices when I cooked, like me. No ring lights, no tripods, no filters to make it something it wasn't. Just a space where I could breathe, think, live without an audience. Mornings were my favorite, quiet, slow, the kind of calm that doesn't need explaining. I'd settled into a rhythm that fit. Work was steady, the kind of busy that kept my mind sharp without swallowing me whole. I'd run most evenings, looping through the neighborhood as the sun dipped, my sneakers slapping the pavement in time with whatever playlist I'd thrown together. After, I'd shower, eat, maybe watch a game or read until my eyes got heavy. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine, and that made it better than anything I'd left behind. I didn't check her social media anymore. Didn't need to. The world she lived in, likes, comments, stories, felt like a different planet, one I didn't miss. I deleted my old apps, kept only what I needed for work and music. My phone was quieter now, and so was I. One night, I was on the balcony, a small concrete slab barely big enough for a chair and a plant I was trying not to kill. The air was cool, the city humming below with headlights and distant horns. I was sipping a soda, thick and sweating against my palm, when my phone buzzed on the railing. I glanced at it, expecting a work email or a text from my cousin about some family thing. But it was her. One line. We were supposed to be forever. No emojis, no caps, just those 5 words glowing on the screen. I set the can down, slow, like I was afraid to break something. I stared at the message for a full minute, my thumb hovering, my chest tight with something I couldn't name. Not anger, not sadness, maybe just the weight of what could have been, what I'd thought we were. I leaned back in the chair, the metal creaking under me, and let my mind go there, just for a second. Forever. That's what I'd wanted, too, back when I'd put a ring on her finger, when we'd laughed over late-night pizza and planned trips we'd never take. I believed in it. Us, together, building something real. But then I saw her on that live stream, heard her laugh as she called me convenient, temporary, a stepping stone to something else. That wasn't a mistake or a bad night. That was her truth, slipping out when she thought I wasn't listening. And I'd listened. I'd believed her then, and I believed her now. Forever wasn't ours anymore, if it ever had been. I picked up the phone, opened the message, and typed. That's what I thought. until I heard you say it wasn't. My fingers paused, rereading the words, making sure they were right. They were. I hit send, watched the little delivered tag pop up, and locked the screen before I could second-guess it. I didn't wait for a reply, didn't expect one. That was it, the last thing I needed to say, the final knot untied. I set the phone face down on the railing, the metal cool against my hand, and looked out at the sky. It was clear, stars faint against the city's glow. No clouds to complicate things. Just open, endless space. She didn't text back. I hadn't thought she would. Maybe she read it and cried. Maybe she deleted it and moved on. Maybe she was already filming her next story, spinning a new version of herself for the world to cheer. I didn't care. That was her life now, not mine. I finished my soda, the last sip flat but still sweet, and went inside, sliding the balcony door shut behind me. The apartment was dark except for the lamp by the couch, its light pooling soft across the rug. I stood there for a moment, taking it in, the books on the shelf, the dishes drying by the sink, the quiet that didn't need filling. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I thought about the early days, when we'd been all laughter and late-night talks, when I thought love was enough to carry us through anything. I'd been wrong, but I didn't hate myself for it. I tried, given what I had, believed in something bigger. Now I believed in something else, myself, my choices, the life I was building one small step at a time. I didn't need her to see it, didn't need her to understand. I saw it, and that was what mattered. I walked to the kitchen, rinsed the can, and tossed it in the recycling. The clock on the wall ticked past 10, and I realized I wasn't tired, not really. I felt awake, alive in a way I hadn't in years. I went back to the couch, grabbed my laptop, and opened a coding project I'd been tinkering with, a small app, nothing big, just something to keep my skills sharp. The screen glowed, lines of code neat and orderly, a world I could shape without anyone's approval. I worked for an hour, maybe two, losing myself in the logic, the quiet satisfaction of making something work. When I finally closed the laptop, the apartment was still, the city outside a low hum through the walls. I didn't check my phone again, didn't need to. Whatever she was doing, whatever she thought, it was hers to carry now. I let go, not with anger or regret, but with a clarity I hadn't known I could find. I got up, turned off the lamp, and headed to bed. The mattress was firm, the sheets clean, the room dark except for a sliver of light from the street. I lay there, hands behind my head, and listened to the quiet. No buzz of notifications, no echo of her voice, no weight of what I was supposed to be. Just me, my breath, my life. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in weeks, sleep came easy, pulling me under like a tide I didn't fight. Tomorrow would come, and I'd meet it on my terms. No hashtags, no audience, just the sky and the road ahead.